At the lights, turn left onto Lookout Road. In about 1 mile, turn right onto North Evans Road.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Off to work, man, off to work. So, hey, can y'all give me one of these? Here.
At the next lights, turn right.
Oh, man. Let's see what I can do. Here.
At the lights, turn right onto North Evans Road.
Oh, cool. Yeah, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son. Yeah, cool, man. Can't really read it right now, but I just saw what was that, John 3:16 or John 9:36?
In 3/4 of a mile, turn left onto Interstate 35 North.
Oh, yeah. Cool, man. So what do y'all think about check this out. Check this out. All right, we went to a place this past weekend. And these so we couldn't we couldn't go to this spot on it's called Government Canyon, okay? And does anyone hello, how are you? Does anyone know what these what this represents? Anyone? They look, I mean, to me they look like footprints, right, in rock, right? So yeah, they're reported to be dinosaur footprints, okay? That you know, obviously, and I don't know how many of y'all
go past these lights, then at the next set, turn left onto Interstate 35 North.
I don't know how many of y'all have ever been out into the wild and then, you know, like a big heavy cow or something, it sinks into the mud. And, you know, and you know, and it looks like it's going to be permanent in the mud.
Turn left.
Hello. And it looks like it's going to be permanent in the mud. And then, you know, you might go out there like a month later and it looks like...
In 3/4 of a mile, keep left to merge onto IH 35 North.
So these imprints go into the mud, right? And then they get like, you know, and you're observing this phenomenon of these prints from this large animal disappearing in a matter of no time. So for these to be embedded to stay in this mud like that, boom, and not be washed away or eroded away because it's locked in stone, well, it means that it had a lot of pressure on top of it, right? I mean, that's what you observe with this, right? And you got like to the right here on the screen, you got like this, it's like a huge like brontosaurus type, a big flat foot that kind of goes into the ground, and you got a lot of these things, and they're really big. I mean, they're bigger than your feet, right? I wear a size 11, and it's bigger than my feet, both ways across. I might come, maybe it was a baby or something, but it was still of a big weight. It might have been a baby dinosaur. Well, something happened to preserve these footprints in the mud, and then consequently they turned to stone, sealing the print in stone, right?
Use the left lane to keep left to merge onto IH 35
Sorry
north.
about this guy. But so you needed like a great pressure of some sort, and to kind of turn this mud or this dirt and these rocks,
keep left,
into rocks, right? To turn the dirt into rock, right? And so, I mean, it had to be a lot of force.
In 9.8 miles, take exit 184 towards SH 337 loop in FM 482.
All right. Hopefully this guy will shut up. But I gotta send a arrival time to my customer, and that's why I'm doing this, because this job I'm going to charge by the hour. And hopefully I can get it done, and not upset him or whatever, not take too much time. But I'm pretty reasonable. So there was a great force, like a pressure, that stayed on top of this mud and these footprints that encased them in stone. And and if you're talking about like a fossilization process, I mean, it's pretty, if it's like billions of years, and these things took a billion years to get encased, well, that's not what I observe today. I observe like a cow print sinking, like a footprint from a cow sinking in the mud, or a horse. I see it getting eroded, right? So it can't be a slow process that fills this in. It has to be like an immediate, high pressure process. And if you've ever, and I've got some other pictures too. Maybe I'll show them tomorrow. And it's called the hydroplate theory. And the hydroplate theory attempts to, I think that's what it's called. I'll explain it to you, and you can go look it up. But it explains what we see here in these rocks. Man. We got 0. Okay. Well, so the hydroplate theory says that the water busted out of the middle of the earth, shot up into the air, in literally a short amount of time. I don't want to say minutes, but it was a pretty phenomenal sight to see. This huge explosion of water that went on top and preserved these prints and turned this dirt into stone, right? So the hydroplate theory aligns, and that's what I see when I see this. And when I go and see the skeletons that are embedded in rock that are all perfect together. You don't see a perfect skeleton in the wild unless it's covered up immediately, right? Red Red, what's up, brother? So the hydroplate theory says that there's water in the caverns of the deep, right? And something happened and it cracked the crust and it shot water up into the sky, a phenomenal amount of water into the sky, and immediately saturated the earth, right? With the water under, I don't know. I mean, it had to be like at least like a mile of water because, you know, it has to cover these mountains. I don't think the mountains were that tall. I think some of the mountains were made taller after the flood. Okay? That's what I think. And I'll explain that. So this water sat and preserved on top of this mud at the time, and pressurized it and condensed it and turned it into stone. And then, you know, through other kind of mass erosive techniques like you had at Mount St. Helens, Red and I were talking about that. And it covered these prints in a loosely fitting dirt, perhaps, either when the waters receded or what. But, you know, you still have the crust out here with the water around it, and then you have empty space up underneath it. Well, after a few months, the water starts seeping back into the cracks, into those empty hollow spaces on the crust of the earth, and starts eroding it, and those caverns that the water was once in collapse, and now the water is on top of the crust and not inside the crust, and therefore it recedes, pushing up mountain chains and leaving behind, you know, and the waters recede, and it makes canyons, and it leaves behind these fossilized footprints. So let me see what else I got. So here's another one. You know, and these are probably so you see each toe of these of this print. Each of these toes, from the tip of that toe to the heel, maybe is bigger than my foot. Maybe a size, just one toe would fit into like a size 16, 17 shoe. Okay, so they're pretty big, and there's 3 of them, and they're fossilized in this rock that had to be at one time dirt, right? So that's the dinosaurs. And here, let's see. And you know, I'm sure someone's gonna go, oh, you know, that's not science. Well, it is science. See, and here's another piece of the rock footprint that you see out there, okay? And I got a video coming out on it, and here's another picture. So it's going to be an interesting, and I'm going to explain the hydroplate theory, and the
In 2 miles, take exit 184 towards SH 337 loop and FM 482.
So there had to be, I mean, if you look like this at the bottom right of this last picture that I put up, I mean, I'm not going to say it was a giant gecko, but that resembles like the pad of a gecko foot, right? So I don't know. I mean, it was pressurized under it. I mean, it had to have just tons of something on top of it to pressurize and condense this mud into stone, you know, and maybe some heat maybe it was hot water or something that spewed out of here and fossilized this. Oh, not here. 184. So I don't know. It's pretty interesting the fact that there's these footprints in this rock. And, you know, and there's another place here in Texas that supposedly has like it looks like a giant footprint. So Here, let me get these out. So, damn it. So it looks like a giant footprint in rock, but the rock was pushed up onto the side of a mountain. And
take exit 184 towards SH 337 loop and FM 482. Then take the first left onto SH 337 loop.
So and I think that's here in Texas. I'm not for sure, but it's a giant footprint. I mean, and it looks like it could be from like a 20-foot human being.
At the lights, use the left 2 lanes to turn onto SH 337 loop.
The only way you could say that it's not a footprint from a giant is by saying, well, giants don't exist.
Turn left.
But there's plenty of stories about giants. So I mean, you know, I'm about looking at stuff, you know, and that's what I'm about. I'm about looking at stuff and about seeing, you know, an observation, you know. I mean, just like Shem, his grandson, I think it was Enoch or Methuselah. So Adam's son had a son who was Methuselah, right? And he knew Adam. Shem knew Noah, and his grandfather, who he talked to before the flood, knew Adam, the first man. And you know, and Shem was all the way alive until almost the time of Moses, where they are actively writing down and recording things in history. And you know, and so in essence, that
stay in the right lane.
In essence, that is science, because you have an observation.
In about 3 miles, keep left onto Bochas Boulevard.
You have testimony of a witness that says that Adam was the first man, because the guy that's witnessing it was grandfather. I think it was Methuselah, but you know, they call him something else in like the Middle East. His grandfather was Adam. So I think it was Enoch or Methuselah, I can't remember. But anyhow, he you know, he got all the testimony and knew everything that happened, you know, all the way up until Adam, because he had witnesses telling him this. And then Shem was able to tell people after the flood by firsthand experience, yeah, this is what went on. And you know, I mean, and y'all think that Shem, he was revered, him and Noah, and even his children, because some of his children, and I don't know if they became pagan, but they were kind of Pharaoh-like, and it was either Shem or Japheth's children or grandchildren was named Thor. You can look it up. And they made him a Norse god. So, you know, you know, and these people were like, you know, big powerful people, because you know Shem was a pre-flood person who was probably very intimidating because of his size and his stature. I mean, you see the biggest, like you see the rock. The rock would be intimidating. Well, Shem could have been everything that the rock was and more, you know, and no one thinks about that. Everyone thinks about these guys as feeble old men, but when God created them, they were big and buff, right? They had to be. I mean, Noah...
In 1 mile, keep left onto Bochas Boulevard.
Noah built an ark by himself. Some people say he had help of...
Stay in the middle lane.
But I'm willing to bet that there were giants that were 20, 30 feet tall, but Noah and Shem, they were probably 8 or 9 feet tall and big and muscular, right? Because there's even descendants of Japheth and Canaan who were like in the Philistines, who were larger than life. So,
use the left lane to keep left onto Borchers Boulevard.
People did not start getting weak until after the flood, and they had to go through
keep left
quite a bit of mutation to kind of get small in stature and stuff. No one really addresses that and talks about that. The wisdom of the Bible. God made some perfect people, and Adam and Eve were not intimidated by God. They weren't scared to lie to him. Like I have these kids, and now they get scared of lying to me because I intimidate them, right? Well, Adam and Eve weren't intimidated by God because they were probably, when he presented himself in the garden, were probably of identical stature, because they were so close to God. And God said he created Adam in his image. And, and it wasn't and what's interesting, when you read, in the Bible, it mentions that God did nothing to put blood in him. It says bone and flesh. That's it. Bone, flesh, and then probably water. I think there's a spot where it says that we had water running through us. And I find that interesting. And it wasn't blood. It wasn't blood until after the fall.
In half a mile, turn left onto Zachary Drive.
Because when the fall happened, God slew an animal and divided its fur amongst Adam and Eve, and that became known as the first blood offering, and that's when blood was made, right after the fall. And then you have stories of Cain knocking out Abel and spilling his blood, right? And there's reference to that. So, the Bible's a fascinating book, and I've been stuck in Genesis for...
Turn left onto Zachary Drive, then take the first right onto Bayberry Lane.
I've been stuck, and I've read everything I can about it. When I get here, I'll show you what I have to do. And it looks like it's going to pour rain. It's going to be cool, at least. See, like it's only 83 degrees right now.
Turn right onto Bayberry Lane. Left onto Indigo Bush Drive. Then the destination is on your right.
All right, so here's what I got to do. And this guy's got it. It sucks that he's here, that this truck's here. But anyhow, we'll see. I'll do something about it. So I gotta do that, probably that. Jeez, and that tree. Ooh, look at this. Look at this. I just dirted this yard. Looks good, right? That grass just popped, banged. I'm gonna park right here now that that car left. All right. Yeah, I know, right? It sounds like that guy is from Pakistan. I don't know how to change it. So this is a lawn I do regularly. I'm gonna have to come back because I'll just tell them I'll come back and mow the lawn. But yeah, I'm just gonna follow the borders and probably, I don't know, gotta go. All right, let me you know, this guy doesn't like a lot cut off his stuff. And I'm gonna start my timer. But yeah, that lady's yard looks real nice, man. Put some dirt in it and it made that yard pop, dude. All right. Yeah, I'm driving a Pakistani cab right now. So yeah, I don't know how to change it back. So I gotta trim all these bushes. And I'm sure you're not gonna mow today. Well, I didn't bring my stuff to mow. I didn't know if he wanted me to take the stuff down. All right. Well, hey, you take care, Red. Have a good day. All right, y'all take care. All right, bye.